All right, everyone. George H.W. Bush is now saying, apparently in his book, he's saying, yeah, I voted for Hillary Clinton and Trump is a blowhard and I don't really like him. There was a separate story as well. This was even funnier. I think it was the New York Times, where both Herbert Walker Bush and W. Bush, everyone's two favorite recent presidents, of course, came out and said, oh, we're worried that Trump is going to tear apart the GOP's legacy. We built a party of like immigration reform and sensibility and all these wonderful things. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yes, Herbert Walker and George W., what are they respectively known for? Let's see, Herbert Walker, one-term disaster, shit on the Reagan legacy, basically. He was jerry-rigged in there because Reagan had just gotten through everything and he was the VP, basically. So he was basically a carpetbagger. He rode Reagan's coattails in office. Failed, puked on the Japanese prime minister, started a war that he never finished. That's what Herbert Walker was known for. Wonderful legacy. Just absolutely wonderful. And his low approval is why you got Clinton too, by the way. Another tie-in with Hillary Rodham. What's George W. known for? Oh, let's see. That whole Iraq war thing. That's right. His response to 9/11 being basically, hey, I'm going to spy on people. Haha, it's going to be great. And I'm going to go kill a bunch of people that had nothing to do with 9/11. It's going to be wonderful. America #1, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished sums up his entire presidency. Mission accomplished. What was the mission? George W.'s mission was apparently to be as big an embarrassment as possible. The fact that he got a second term is more a testament to the fact that John Kerry was fundamentally incapable of being his political challenger than Bush having any sort of virtue whatsoever. Yeah, and if it had been a year later, Bush would have been absolutely crushed, by the way. It wouldn't have mattered. The whole, what was it? And they said at the time, Americans didn't want to switch leaders in the middle of conflict. Basically the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. So, and what else is George W. known for? Oh, Katrina. Ooh, wonderful. Oh, yep, looking like a total idiot at every possible, step. Now, so when I think of this, and I think about how lovely Herbert Walker and his son are, and they say, well, we're worried Trump is going to change the GOP that we built. I say, well, good. Maybe the GOP will be worth voting for now. Because it's not under the Bush sort of ethos. The post-Reagan period. Reagan's the last Republican that attempted to do a good job. And he was half senile and had his own fucking problems. The Bushes of the Republican Party, the neocons that have been in charge since Reagan was gone. Since the end of the 80s, the dawn of the 90s, the Republicans that have been in charge have steadily withdrawn from actually bothering to attempt to change society in a meaningful way. That is, they've become like the neoliberals. See, the problem is the neolibs and neocons now, they're basically joined at the hip. That's a big problem. Before that, in the Reagan and pre-Reagan era, you have liberals, you have someone like Jimmy Carter, someone who's a leftist, fiscally speaking, environmentalism, blah, blah, blah. And then you have a Ronald Reagan, more of tradcon, really. A traditionalist conservative by standards that we would have now. If Reagan ran today, a lot of these neocons, the Bushes, would probably insinuate that he was a white supremacist. Oh, he has these traditionalistic views, that's outside of the Overton window, a little bit too far for us. Well, that's because over the last 30 years, the Republican Party has done nothing as society has shifted away from it, except to plant your feet and not want to be abused more than you already are. It's like on the gun control debate. It's a microcosm of the whole GOP. The GOP is not pro-gun. The GOP is not pro-Second Amendment. The GOP is not pro-getting rid of gun control. It simply doesn't want more abusive gun control. Until Trump was elected, now with trying to get silencers legalized, they haven't done anything to rescind existing gun control. For 30 years, they did nothing. Even Ronald Reagan didn't really do anything. And he was the last Republican to be kind of activistic. He was the last one who came out and was willing to call it how he saw it with regards to people who were his ideological opponents. He came out and said, well, your vision for America will not work. It is not moral, it is not virtuous, it is not good. He was willing to do that. The Bushes were never willing. Now, I respectfully disagree, says Herbert Walker. Oh, I respectfully disagree, says George W., as culture steadily moves in the other direction, because the Democrats were always willing to do that. I should say the people of the left. And so now you've got the neocons. The neocons are on the left. They're not right-wing. They're authoritarians. They lean left on fiscal issues. They don't have a problem with the tax rate being roughly what it is now. Why do you think Trump's having trouble with his tax reform? His tax reform will overhaul our business tax code especially, and put it back where it was when our economy was actually growing, when we had something to look forward to in the future. They don't want to do that because they consider that like evil and far right by now. Because the neocons are basically the same as liberals were back in the early 90s, are basically Clintonians. So I'm not surprised that Herbert Walker would want to vote for Hillary Clinton. They're the same thing. They have the same views. They want the overhaul of U.S. society. They want high taxes. They want to buddy-buddy with a handful of mega corporations, multinationals that pay nothing into our economy, that basically just enslave people overseas, pay them even less, and then re-import stuff so they can sell it cheaper to all the slaves here. That's what they want. They want more wars. They want proxy wars. They want expansionist sort of movements around the world. They want terrorism as well. They want militants. They want attacks to occur so they can justify the police state. Look, if people get too calm, if there aren't enough militants running around, they can't justify mass surveillance. How do they justify the cost? They can't do it morally because there's nothing to look after, and they can't do it cost-wise because people want lower taxes. They'll go back to talking about fiscal things. Trump is trying to go back to talking about fiscal things. This terrifies them. They're afraid that he's going to overhaul the tax code. They're afraid that he'll manage to gull people into accepting a tax code that'll actually cause the economy to grow so that a middle class reappears in the United States. Because on a multinational scale, it'll play havoc with the Asian economies because we'll begin undermining their capability to extract tribute from us, basically. The thing is, all of these multinational politicians, they don't mind. They're not really Americans, they're just globalists. They're American by birth, but they have no particular loyalty to any country. Their loyalty is to their own wallet. They want more money and power. Well, they don't care if they're getting it from the Chinese or from the US. They don't really care where it's from. What they're worried is that overall, the bottom line for them will be more bleak because the US economy will begin to supplant all the others. That's what they're worried about. Herbert Walker doesn't think that Trump is a blowhard. He thinks that he'll be an effective politician, that the economy will begin growing and that he'll fail to collapse it again with his buddies at the Fed, and that what will end up happening is that Trump's way will become the new GOP. It'll end the Bush era. He's afraid that the Bush legacy of bullshit will finally end. Because then they can't get, like, whoever the next Bush is that enters politics won't have a chance to actually do anything. Because they just won't. Neither will the Clintons. It's why they would vote for each other. If Clinton hadn't been running, I guarantee she would have supported Jeb Bush. She would have come out and said, what an upstanding, wonderful guy this is. Oh, yeah, that evil Trump. And Ted Cruz, like, you know, he's too religious. And Rubio, he's just not experienced enough. We need Jeb. Yeah, I think he's a good guy. He would have come out and done that. That's why Jeb comes out and says, well, I'm not sure I can back Donald, you know, Hillary Clinton, she's not that bad, I guess. Why do you think they would say nice things about each other? While there's an election going on, they're still doing it now. It's like a love fest between the Bushes and Clintons. Doesn't anyone find this odd? Now, during the election, remember, those of us who refuse to support Clinton or a Jeb on a dynastic token as well, it wasn't just about policy. The other part was pure, dynastic politics. You got the idea of a Clinton versus a Bush. Can you fucking just leave it alone for the rest of eternity and not try to foist it on anyone who's alive today? Because we all remember like Clinton versus Bush shit, and it's terrible stuff. Remember George W. Remember Bubba Bill. Some can remember Herbert Walker. I can't really. I was only like I think 4 when he left office. Because when I was born was the day Reagan left. Unfortunately, I was born at the beginning of a very dark age. Since the day I was born, literally speaking, it's been nothing but bullcrap. The Bush era has been terrible for this country. They're terrified Trump will do a good job. That's why they're mobilizing the media to stand in his way, to spread propaganda about Russia constantly. That's all it is. It's an attempt to maintain the neocon, neo-lib supremacy of the last 30 years. It's really all it's about. They want wars. They can profit off of them. Why wouldn't they want to start wars? The political structure and the legacy media and all these corporate heads and big multinational banks all work together. It's money and power. That's all it is. Trump was once part of this, by the way. Trump Incorporated, multi-billion-dollar business. He rubbed elbows with all these people. I think he saw just how shitty some of them were. And he's like, oh, well, now it's my turn. I think they tried to tell him it wasn't a good idea. And I think that pissed him off. I think he's like, well, you know, I'm Donald Trump. Everything else I've got the biggest brand on. I've got the biggest gold gilded letters. And I got the biggest skyscraper in this slum in India. I've got the biggest everything else. Everyone knows who I am. Why can't I be president for a while? And they said, well, no, Don, this time, no, Clinton, we've already promised it to her. And he's like, well, this is the last time around I'm going to get to do it. So fuck you. And then he decided to run. And he's like, well, now I'm going to be a great president. Really show you people up. It's probably what he's trying to do. Unfortunately, I think he underestimated how potent the toxic mix of the propaganda-addled fake news plus the corporate establishment would be in resisting him. But so far, all things considered, he's not doing a bad job. He's still above 1/3 approval, despite the fact that for an entire year, all that has been said about him by every single other group in the country is negative. 100% negative from some of these news networks. They've never run a positive story about him. You remember during the Obama era when they ran fluff pieces all day? Oh, here's Obama dancing with Michelle. How stellar they look. Here's Obama's dance moves. See this cute picture of Obama when he was 12 and he's got the little chubby chipmunk cheeks or whatever. They used to do that all the time. Have they done that even once for Donald Trump? Nope. Not even once. No, when they talk about those around him, like they talk about Barron Trump, oh, well, he looks autistic, he's a bad kid, he made faces at the inauguration. They talk about Melania, what do they talk about? Oh, she posed like, you know, nude this time with another woman, and she wore high heels. It's such a terrible thing. They won't even leave his family alone. Jared Kushner is like, it's so corrupt, and Ivanka Trump, she's sitting in on meetings. We don't feel comfortable with that. You know, if it were Michelle Obama doing it, we wouldn't fucking say anything. But the fact that it happens to be a Trump suddenly makes it a problem. That's the way they treat him. The Bushes are terrified. The Clintons are terrified. So far, they've failed to stop him. Ha! You know, I think it's funny. I hope that he brings the Bush-Clinton era crashing down so that it goes away forever and we never have to deal with neocons and neolibs in significant forms of power again. I hope populism on the right and progressivism on the left become the name of the game, because at least then people have a choice. They can choose between those two, or libertarianism resurges. Anything but neocons versus neolibs, because they're the same fucking thing. A Bush, a Clinton, they're the same. They're the same. They could be part of the same family. I'm surprised that Jeb isn't dating Chelsea or something like that. I'm surprised that the Bushes and Clintons aren't screwing each other. I bet they probably do. George W.'s daughters, you know, have they been involved with a three-way with Chelsea Clinton yet? It probably has. You know, is Hillary and Jeb went to bed together maybe. I'm mad at Bubba because I lost the election. Jeb, can I stay over at your house? Show me your big steak. Something. I bet they do. I wouldn't put it past them. That's about all. Peace out.